Here's another new segment we're trying out on the Wednesday show of Pop Trigger. Either Amir or myself are going to bring 3 things that we learned, sort of random factoids throughout history, space, and time, and bring it to the other and just share our thoughts, questions, comments, and concerns on it. So the first one that I learned that I'm gonna tell you about is that Taco Bell was founded in part because it had one major competitor. And that competitor was the first McDonald's. So Taco Bell was founded by Glenn W. Bell Jr., who had this idea in 1951 to create crispy shell tacos to compete with a very prominent hamburger stand just down the way that was one of the first McDonald's, because he was a hamburger stand and he couldn't cut it, I guess, or he thought he had to add something different to make him more competitive. So he decided that crispy taco shells were the way, which also, by the way, adds to what I always knew that Taco Bell was not. You know, when you're little, you sort of think it's authentic Mexican food because you're just told to believe that.
I never felt that way about Taco Bell.
I did, but that's probably because I would only see it once a year when we'd come to the U.S. for spring break or something, or summer break, and I would be like, oh, this is American Mexican food. Yeah. And then I was like, this was not. I knew there was something off with it. So obviously now Taco Bell has more than 2 billion tacos, and a billion burritos are sold each year at more than 5,600 Taco Bell restaurants. It's a global franchise. And here's how it started. There were drive-in stands dotted around San Bernardino when Mr. Bell opened his first one there in the late 1940s. There was one competitor only a few miles away, and it was the original stand opened by 2 brothers with the last name of McDonald. Now it was competitive. It was very competitive, but Mr. Bell was a big fan of Mexican food, and he had a hunch that if he were to use ground beef, chopped lettuce, shredded cheese, and chili sauce served in the right wrap, that he could give burgers a run for their money, because he could serve them very quickly. And he noticed that all the taco stands that were with soft shell tacos, that it was harder to order up a dozen. So that's how he concocted the hard shell tacos that are basically chips.
Yeah,
like just a giant.
It's a fried tortilla.
And it was all about to capitalize on California car culture, which is really why drive-thrus got their swing of things, was because you had people driving from longer distances. They wanted to pick up food on the go. That's how sort of McDonald's was inspired, and that's how Taco Bell came about as well. Do you have anything to say about that?
It's so fascinating to me. Like, the 50s were such a golden time for entrepreneurial things like this. And that's like when a lot of these fast food chains started.
Yeah.
And I just love stories like this.
Well, also, it was bought. He sold it to PepsiCo in 1978. So 1951, 1978, that's really a pretty short time to establish a franchise worthy of PepsiCo's investment.
Yeah.
And just sort of shows the boom that we were experiencing in the 1950s. 1950s and 70s was such a big American renaissance of innovation. Following World War II, you had all these baby boomers and all these people coming with ideas. There were newer opportunities, and the world was more connected than ever with the highway system. So
yeah, and also more murders than ever too.
Yeah, well, you're going to hear about that on some episodes of Murder with Friends. The highways also were super bad for murders.
Yeah.
Here's another fun fact that I learned. I bet you didn't know this. Did you know that Jackie Chan is a very successful musician?
I had no idea.
He's a pop star in Asia.
Yeah.
Among other things.
I had no idea. What is this? Does he sing? Does he?
Okay, so he has released 20 albums since 1984, and he has performed vocals in Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, Taiwanese, and English. He often sings the theme songs of his films, which play over the closing credits.
Oh.
And here's another thing that I learned about Jackie Chan. So Jackie Chan voiced the character of Shang in the Chinese release of the Walt Disney movie that we all love, Mulan. And he also performed the song "I'll Make a Man Out of You" on the film soundtrack. Now, the song was, when it was in English, was actually performed by Donny Osmond. But Jackie Chan also sang it in, I believe, yes, in Chinese.
So that's really interesting, and I like it. The only trivia that I know about Jackie Chan is about his son's arrest for marijuana.
Why would that be the only trivia you know?
Because it's just crazy, because China has very strict drug laws, right? And Jackie Chan was actually China's anti-drug goodwill ambassador.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, his son was arrested for essentially having an apartment building for people to come and smoke marijuana, and he was caught with a few ounces of marijuana and arrested. It was a really big deal, and he faced charges up to the death penalty, because that's how crazy it is there. And it was this whole thing, Jackie Chan said he's not going to use any of his political connections to help his son.
Whoa!
And his son like came out and like put up a bunch of apologies, and eventually he was released. And I think he's been like very low key since then.
Wow, that's crazy, and that they don't even have that on the printout that I have about Jackie Chan.
I don't know why they.
I feel like that would be, whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts. But I just learned.
Did you listen to any of his music?
I did not.
Okay.
But I just
well, we
took
should
a deep,
do that after the show.
We should probably, honestly, we probably should. But I just took a deep dive into the career of Jackie Chan and his many pursuits and interests. Huge. Yeah. I think underrated. Like, why hasn't there been another Jackie Chan movie in a while that has been another blockbuster?
It's getting old, man.
Not fair. Here's the third thing that I learned, and I wonder if you guys have heard this as well. Suicide pills. You know how like there's this thing where astronauts have suicide pills?
Never heard of it in my life.
Okay.
And when you offered this story, I was like, what?
Okay, so it's been widely assumed that astronauts are given suicide pills in the event that something awful should take place and they would need to commit suicide through like a cyanide capsule. But that's not true at all.
This is some Cold War hysteria.
I know. So they can trace it back to astrophysicist Carl Sagan, who may be the most responsible for the rumor that NASA astronauts carry suicide pills. Sagan, a two-time recipient of the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal, was absolutely adamant about it, even featuring the controversial notion in his book, Contact. But Apollo 13 commander Jim Lovell, and if you know anything about the Apollo 13 mission, couldn't have gone worse.
Yeah.
In general, couldn't have been.
They all just killed themselves. Like, oh shit.
Couldn't have been bad. Couldn't have been any worse than it went. He totally shot that down, saying, since Apollo 13, many people have asked me, did you have suicide pills on board? We didn't. I have never heard of such a thing in the 11 years I spent as an astronaut and a NASA executive. He wrote this in 1975, and yet still the rumor was very pervasive. And up until I was reading through this, I thought that they maybe did have. Okay, listen.
How come I've never heard about this? I love space. I love astronauts.
Right. I know. So, okay. So, Amir, I love astronauts.
I do.
You sound crazy. So, going on, they say that part of the reason why they wouldn't need a cyanide capsule or a suicide pill is because outer space is just effective a suicide agent as a cyanide capsule, perhaps even more so. Exposure to its empty vacuum often results in a blissful loss of consciousness in a matter of seconds. Death by asphyxiation usually follows within 2 minutes. Potassium cyanide suicide pills kill in twice the time without the added bonus of unconsciousness.
Yeah.
So.
And for that reason, we gave all of them revolvers with one bullet.
What? No, stop it.
It's a rumor.
No, it's not. What the reason why this was interesting to me is because I don't understand how this caught on, because I have absolutely heard this and I did assume it to be true.
I don't think it was that effective because I never heard about it. And like apparently did they teach this?
Over here?
Did they teach this to you in like Belgium? Like where did you hear about
just
this?
From kids at
what
camp and
kids?
stuff.
Like I went to space camp but I never even heard about this.
I didn't hear it at space camp. But I don't think that I would have, because I was 9 years old and I didn't understand what suicide was. And I'm just saying that you understand the danger
just like,
of space.
Come on, like why would you be like, oh, if like all systems fail, just kill yourself. Like don't try to like fix the situation. It goes against like everything that like we've been taught about like what astronauts do. Like for the last minute, they're trying to like fix things.
Yes.
Even like the people in like the shuttle, like the Columbia that crashed. Like
yes, you're right. But I think it also adds to the danger of and the mystery of space. Like, oh, like you're really putting your life on the like either it goes well or
you kill yourself. Like
I
go
don't
up there
know.
and kill yourself.
Well, I think that there's
just imagine if that was like the plot point in like the movie Gravity and like Sandra Bullock like just like like the ship like hit debris.
Okay, Sandra Bullock. You pronounced her name weird.
Bullocks.
Yeah, little Bullock over here. Yeah. Anyway, I have a feeling that someone probably did learn something new. We'd like to hear from you. Tell us some 3 things that you learned this week, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.